Mm.
Break my soul. You won't break my soul. You won't break my soul. I'm telling everybody. Welcome back to the Madeherselfaboss podcast, where we're talking all about mastering methods and mindsets to making more money in your business. Welcome back. We're glad you're here.
Back. It's been a while, so you should know who we are. But in case you don't, my name is Bree.
And I am Shy, and this is our lovely podcast, and we're just here to guide you through your journey on becoming the boss that you want to be. So if you're new to the community, hey girl, hey!
Hey.
So today is all about things that I feel like people slightly touch on, but don't really go all the way through. And from our vantage point, our viewpoint, we want to talk about it. And I think it's all about the big pivot, right?
The very, very big pivot. And I think I know why people don't like to talk about it, but we're going to get into it. So what is the big pivot? The big pivot is when really anytime you have to make a major shift in your business, like real quick. Like something unexpected has happened, something that you may have not been prepared for happened. A person, place, or thing somehow,
Some
kind of noun, threw a wrench in your operation, and you can't quit. I mean, you can't quit, and you don't want to fold. So the pivot is what you choose to do from that point to get it taken care of.
Yeah, whether it's financial, whether it's because of the marketplace or personal reasons, pivots are good. I think a lot of times pivots get the bad name, or it's the cuss word, or people may feel shame or embarrassment because they decided to pivot. Like I think about some people who wanted to do entrepreneurship, were excited, got traction, and then all of a sudden shifts started happening to them, and then they are deciding maybe entrepreneurship isn't for me in this season that I'm in.
And that's okay.
Right, it's totally okay if you're feeling that way. And it's okay to change your mind. I think a lot of times with that particular incident that we all think that it's the shame because it's so ostracized that you need to go for this one thing and you should not change or you should not quit, or you're a failure if you decide to pivot. Well, all actuality, you should be celebrated for the pivot.
Exactly. And I even just want to touch on what you just said about the shame. I don't know how social media and just everything has put us in the mindset where it's a bad thing to go work for yourself and then maybe have to just go back to work.
Yeah.
Like you said, how that's seen as a failure, but why? The point is that you're getting money in. You know, you wanted to start a business to have all these other, all the benefits of being a business owner. Freedoms, extra money, your own flexibility, just whatever that is. But the point at the end of the day is that you're bringing in money. So if it's not bringing in money right away and your different strategies and things maybe just need some time to see the result of, it's completely fine to go back to get a job. And I hate that social media has kind of vilified doing that. It just don't worry about them. Don't worry about them. They're not paying your bills. They're not in your office with you. They're not up late nights figuring out your marketing and your content creation and your bookkeeping and all of that stuff. Do what you need to do. Yeah. That's the point. Yes, we're called Madeherselfaboss. You're still a boss. You're still doing things. You're still maneuvering. You're still controlling what your income and your lifestyle is looking like. But do what you need to do.
Yeah, and I think sometimes even in that same incident with the pivot, sometimes you realize that maybe the career or a different goal is better aligned with where you're trying to go.
Yes.
And that is perfectly okay. It's all about what you truly desire for yourself. And I don't know about you, but that's more boss than anything, to have the audacity to be like, this is not working for me anymore, and I'm okay with that. But I want to try something different that's going to better serve who I am.
Exactly. And it's so crazy that you said that we're talking about this today. I know some people in person, and I've seen a couple of my favorite content creators online doing some pivots. Good friend of ours does makeup, but she decided she wants to go to medical school.
Bomb.
Like completely different shift from anything she's done before. She wants to go to medical school. And then like some of the content girlies I'm looking at, they've been making money doing content. They're like, I want to go back and get a degree, or I want to just, do something different. And that's okay. Why do you think that there's so much pressure for people to just stay in one lane forever? And if you don't, it's seen as a failure, or you're doing too much. Why do other people care so much?
That's such a great question, and it's probably a lot of answers, right? I think people are worried about what others say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we have to be tunnel vision and not worry or be concerned, because at the end of the day, other people's opinions are not your concern.
Right.
And I think sometimes we have that guilt. There's a small ounce of guilt. So ourselves, and dang, I was up, I'm on social media, I'm in these streets, business streets, promoting this and saying I am this. And now I'm deciding, or I'm feeling that this I don't want.
Right.
So there's a part of like a guilt, like, oh, I'm out here looking like this, but really secretly I'm not secretly, but you know what I mean. But I'm not really wanting to do this no more. So I just feel like there's sometimes that guilt that allows us to, I should just stay in my life. Let me just stay here, because the whole world's knowing me for this. Even though I'm feeling this way, let me just stay with what they know me as. And so I think it's between personal, society, social media, like you previously just said, that heightens the reason why I should just stay. Or why am I so worried about what others say or think about my pivot? It's my life. Right. It's my business. It's my income. So why should I feel that way when it's my destiny that I'm controlling or I am working through?
Exactly. So if you want to, you go ahead and be that Renaissance woman. You go ahead when you're 90 years old talking to your great grands or whatever, how you have your hand in so many things, and they're going to be like, wow, she has such an interesting life. You know, or she went where her heart took her. She went where her desires took her.
And the courage it took to do that, the confidence that came from that. And then I think it's the lessons learned that happen as you are navigating the pivot. And, of course, we're going to get deeper into that. But I think what are the lessons that came about when you had to make the pivot, whether it was personal lessons, like you said, where did the courage come from? How did I have to self-soothe, talk through to get myself to actually make the pivot or not worry about what others are saying?
Right.
Whether it's a financial or marketplace pivot, what did it take for me to like sit and focus in? That's a whole skill right there.
Right.
So I think it's also like, what were the lessons that you learned along the way that helped you become this bolder person as you are pivoting, right? And how can you make sense of your pivot, and how can you talk to the pivot? And I mean, talk to the pivot, make it make sense for yourself. I'm pivoting because X, Y, and Z. I am confident and feel great about my pivot because of X, Y, and Z. So I want you guys to think of your pivot as a good thing. Sometimes rerouting is the best thing to do, because sometimes it takes you to your next level even faster when you are taking time to reroute yourself.
That's really good. That's really, really good. And I think it's worth mentioning when pivoting, I do think that sometimes when people feel guilty about having to do a pivot, like a major pivot, a completely different pivot, do you think that some of that comes from them internally knowing that maybe they didn't give their all? You think that maybe a little bit of that guilt may be a little valid?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Maybe it was hard, and we're grown. Let's talk about it. Yeah. Maybe some things are hard, and you backed out, didn't choose to invest in some extra training or coaching or resources or time into making something work. Now, that's the reason why you're pivoting. You're probably going to pivot from the next thing that you are going to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think that the lesson in anytime that you pivot, as you were getting into, just make like a really good assessment of yourself. Is it something that makes sense for me? Why does it make sense for me? You really want to be clear that you're not running from things, because if you have the mentality to be running from things when they get hard, you're going to keep on running. Okay. It's going to repeat. So that's really interesting to explore. Yeah. Maybe that should be in your journal. Maybe that should be in our journal prompts.
Make sure y'all do your journal prompts at the bottom. But yes.
When I pivot, what is the reason? When I pivot, what questions should I ask myself to make sure that this is what I want to do, or what I'm being feared, not using the word correctly, but yes, what I'm being scared into doing. What am I scaring myself into doing?
That's good. That's so good.
So, journal prompt of the day.
Yeah, that's journal prompt. And by the way, it will be below. So
yes, will be in the description.
Oh, that's so good. So, when you think about pivoting, Brittany, right? What are the signs? What are you feeling like are the signs that we see, maybe we ignore, that's telling us, okay, we need to pivot, we need to change, whether it's in our business, whether it's personal, like what are those signs are you feeling that, come up that we may ignore or we're not aware of?
Well, I know previously, we're going to speak of this in the past. Previously, I have a really bad habit of just being hard on myself when unexpected things come. I have to realize it's unexpected. For the most part, it's unexpected. Or if it was not unexpected, if I did see something possibly coming ahead, I didn't prepare for it. So the first thing I have to do is take responsibility for the part that is my responsibility. When it's not, just use that as a learning lesson. Like, okay, and is this lesson telling me to move to something different or to just do something different where I'm at? So it really just goes back to, it can go so many ways. I think that the only thing that everything has in common is that you have to be honest with yourself where the situation has led you. Because some things are going to be in our hands and some things are going to not be in our hands. And then when those things that are not in our hands happens again, it was in our hands to prepare for that.
Yeah, that's so good.
It was. So those are some of the questions that I ask myself when different pivots come. Everything's learning lessons.
Yes.
And how am I going about that lesson? So it's hard to answer that very specifically because there's so many different types of things that could happen that could cause someone to pivot.
Yeah, that is true. I also think about identifying the pattern. So in our businesses, we'll try things, we'll measure them, your KPIs, y'all. We'll measure them and see what's working, what's not working. We're in the middle of a launch or something, and we're noticing that the pattern is the same. We're not getting to the goal. Us as businesswomen, right, when we put our business acumen hat on, we have to be able to notice the patterns in different things. And sometimes when we're noticing the patterns and we're noticing the different results that we're not getting, being able to pivot and try something different. I think sometimes when we're in launches, we're like, well, let's play it all the way out. Yes, to an extent, but if you are noticing that every time you're doing the same thing, it's not rendering this result that you want, okay, it's time to change.
Right.
It's time to do something different. So there is another example in your business where it might be time to pivot, whether it's pivoting in the software that you're using to get a better result, whether it's pivoting in strategy because you're noticing that the strategy that used to work is no longer working. Whatever it is, it's okay to change course. It's okay to try something different and see if it can render you a different result than what you've been getting.
Right. What would you say to situations where you have to pivot real quick?
Do it.
You got a call with some bad news or something's falling apart or some someone who's an integral part of your team is not there.
Yeah.
Like when you have to pivot real quick and it's unexpected and you may not exactly know what to do, what are some motions and thought processes that you would suggest that people put themselves through real quick? Like 24 hours quick.
Oh, on the quick tip. So, breathing. That's the first thing I do because when you get hit with the news or the reality of what's not going to happen or whatever that is, then it's like your brain slowly, quickly shifts to what needs to make it happen. What do I need to do to make it happen? For me, I need to think and write at the same time, and then I run across typically, Brittany, see, does this make sense in a quick time frame? So I would say, not think it through. Get a piece of paper, write it down. If you're a paper person like me, have a confidant person that you can run it by real quick, right?
Yeah.
Say, does these steps make sense? Pick up the phone, call who you need to call, make the necessary changes really quickly, have a backup because sometimes that plan might not even work because we had situations where that backup plan didn't work. And do what you can. I also think out of all of that, giving yourself grace for what can happen and won't happen. Because there have been situations where we even had it all planned out to a T, and maybe 50% of that stuff didn't happen. So we had to quickly make sense of what we could do and what we couldn't do, or what could we do without. Could we still make this plan work without these particular items on this list? And if we can't, how can we make it happen very quickly? What could we do without? So I think a lot of times is a lot of that panic will start kicking in.
Oh, yes.
That's why I said breathe first. That's why I said breathe first. You got to calm yourself down to be able to think and be able to make a plan that actually can get you a result in those quick moments. Have somebody look at it, have somebody think it. Sometimes when we're in those rush moments, we're not always thinking clearly, so having somebody to look at it, make sure it makes sense, add something in that you didn't think of, and then execute the plan as expeditiously as you can.
Get into your emotions later, like after the fact.
Yeah.
That was crazy, after the fact.
Yes.
Because what I've learned, what I've had to personally learn, and this may not be taught to everybody, but sometimes you do have to turn the emotions off. Like, we're women, we are going to feel a way about something happening, right? We are. In that moment, when you have to make a quick decision, especially, have to turn your emotions off and be all the way logical about it in that moment. Feel those emotions later. I'm not saying don't feel them at all, but feel them when the situation is past.
Yeah, so you can get through it. Yeah,
absolutely.
And with that being said, we are going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Don't be excited.
Be excited for the upside. Hey girl, hey. So as you're watching this, we've just entered into the last quarter of the year.
Jeez.
Oh my goodness. So at this point, we really need to be thinking about what you're going to be doing next year. More importantly, to make sure that it does not look like it did this year. And here at Madeherselfaboss, we have the perfect thing for you. It is called Her New Year. It is a one-day workshop. We will be working through all the gaps, all the problems, all the things that you probably went through this year, getting that figured out to make sure that your next year is going to be amazing, that it's going to be a up level from the previous one.
Yes, like Bree said, this year cannot be another repeat. So get ready, get excited to come to our next workshop. It's going to be November 9th, and you're going to spend a cool half day with us as we help you get clear on your vision for next year, get confident about how you're going to execute it, and get excited because the new year is going to bring great, gracious things for you. So do us a favor, go ahead and enroll now. We'll be excited to get our hands on your business and help you prepare for your new year.
Because it's what? Your new year. Hi, and welcome back to the Madeherselfaboss podcast. Today we are talking about the big pivot. And in the beginning, I think we kind of already talked about the emotions, and the reasons why people might have to pivot in different ways in different various areas. So now let's talking about like what is the actual strategy when you have to pivot? Like what do you do? What are the steps?
Yes, so I think about maybe the first step is realizing, yes, a pivot is necessary, right?
Yes.
Which we kind of alluded to earlier before the break. Knowing that, okay, I do need to pivot. Confirming all the things that have happened that confirmed within you and checking with your body, right? That a pivot is necessary, right? So once it's necessary, whether it's in your business, right? It's time to do the research to make the pivot. What's going to help me elevate the goal a little bit better? What's going to help me render a result a little bit differently? What are my options? What do they look like? So the research. If you want to flip it personal, same thing. What is necessary for your life to be what is needed to be? What needs to happen? What needs to research? If it's therapy, do you need to research different types of therapists? Because it's not always talk therapy. It could be different other modalities like tapping or sound therapy or just different things. What will work for you? So I think the second step will be the research. Absolutely. I think about researching. And then I think after researching and you have the data or you have the things in front of you, the third step will be making a decision, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And you'll notice a lot of these things that we just said are just hard decisions, right? Realizing that you have to pivot, just acknowledging it, accepting it, right? Because sometimes you don't want to.
Yes.
Accept it. Okay, I have to do something, getting in the right headspace, be it therapy or whatever that means for you to just be able to think clearly. Then the research. Now, of course, that's going to vary depending on how much time you have to pivot.
Sure.
But just try to do as much as you can. I mean, we're walking around with computers in our hands.
Literally.
These days. So depending on what the situation is, do that research, find the answer to the solution, see what the numbers are talking about, all depending on what it is.
Right.
Then after that, to actually go ahead and execute. Come up with a quick plan, depending on how much time that you have. Come up with that plan, see it through, double check it, ask for help, ask for support, be on top of it. Be that type A personality in that moment if you need it, and just get it done, because pivots are serious. Like, you feel this way and you're experiencing this for a reason. So it calls for immediate action.
Yeah, definitely immediate action. And be okay if a part of the pivot renders forgiveness of yourself or of others. And it's totally okay. I just want to make sure I say that because there's different situations why we need to pivot,
Right.
whether it's the personal, business-wise, financial hardships, whatever the situation is. I want to make sure that you are at least thinking as you are realizing it and accepting and acknowledging the pivot that if there's a part of forgiveness plays in that, let's start working through that as you're working through each step. Now that you execute it, now I think it's about stepping back and measuring.
Right.
I mean, we are all in business, right? This is a kind of like a business podcast, right? Business and mindset podcast. And so we need to step back and see what the results were. What needs to maybe change again? What rendered X result? Did it improve? Did it increase? Sometimes you might need a SWOT analysis or just really simply pay attention to what's coming in or what's happening, right?
Exactly.
And then if you want to switch it to personal, same thing. You step back and see what worked, what didn't work, and what needs to go forth again. So I want to make sure you guys are listening or acknowledging what needs to happen when the pivot comes, whether it's pivoting from entrepreneurship back into the career or pivoting different jobs or pivoting the ideas or different things that are happening within your business. Pivots are good no matter what the situation is, and it's for your good. Something that I remember is that for your good would never pass me. So I'm thinking about in situations where we have to pivot, this is for my good. And because it's for my good, nothing bad will ever pass me. You know what I mean? You see what I'm trying to say? So when you're thinking of your pivot, no matter how it may feel within you, whether it's a negative emotion, know that it's happening for your good, for the good of you, for the good of your business, and that it's going to be okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And honestly, the more that you learn to pivot, I look at it like a muscle that as you work it over time, you'll become much better at it. After a while, things are not going to phase you. After a while, you're going to become so solution oriented. Just naturally, nothing's really going to phase you. And I think as you strengthen that muscle, you're able to go much farther.
Yeah. It's like when you have to have the hard conversations that make you have the lump in your throat. Like, it gets better. It gets better as you consistently do it. I want to talk about when the pivot affects the audience or even your clients.
So you talk to them about it.
What if you had a program that you had clients in and you no longer want to do that program? Like you just do not want to do it. Like how to effectively communicate that to them, because at the end of the day, your business should definitely be for you, right? Not the other way around.
Right.
And even though you have clients in a current program, if you are not feeling it, if it's not calling in the client you are getting excited to serve, it's okay to have the conversation with them, right?
Absolutely.
Hey guys, we're going to continue this program to this year out, but after that, this will be no more. But here are some things that we can do to still work together or get you into something that will get to this X goal, right? Having hard conversations that matter.
Another muscle that once strengthened will become much easier. I think it comes down to just being very clear, being very honest. I mean, when it comes down to your customers, especially, a lot of you are service based. And if you're doing things right, a lot of your customers feel somewhat like connected to you. They trust you, right? So take into consideration that they trust you, being very clear, being very honest about why this pivot needs to happen, giving them some solutions to still take advantage of if you're taking something away or having to change something. And even being prepared, like what if the pivot is like in the middle of something and you're still going to honor what you said that you're going to do. That's just good business, right? But what if the way that you deliver it has to change inside of your control? What if there's something that's just out of your control? It's mid-service period, and it's still going to be delivered, but differently. Again, a very hard conversation because, your customers are expecting things to be presented or done or executed a certain way. That was the understanding during your onboarding and all of that. So like when it's in the middle of that, I know that that's
a hard conversation.
Right? And you're still living within integrity. It's still getting done. Just the method
is different.
What do you think? How's that conversation? Just still honest? And
I think it's still honest. I think it still honors who you are and the customer is. And it's like even if it's a one-on-one or a one-on-many conversation, it still has to happen, right? No matter what. So I think being clear on what that is, being clear on the outcome of what it looks like, and then just having the conversation, like a transparent conversation. Hey guys, This is what it looks like right now. This is what's out of my control. This is what it's within my control. And this is what I would love to do for you.
Right.
And I think when you present it in that way, in that manner, your customers, clients can do nothing but respect and honor you for that because you came to them with honesty.
Yep. And you still gave them a solution. At the end of the day, you know, understanding or not, at the end of the day, they just want to know, like, look, am I still getting what I'm paying for? Sorry you're going through that, but am I still getting what I'm paying for? And as long as you make sure that it's properly communicated that the answer is yes, even if the method is different.
Yeah.
Still getting what you're paying for. You can walk boldly in that. You know, take a breath, as Shai said in the beginning. Take a breath, do your research, write it down, do whatever you have to do to just like be able to do it and send the email or send the voice memo or send the video. Just do it.
Do it. Yeah. Do it.
And feel the emotions later.
Yeah. And speaking of feeling the emotions later, that does play a part in the pivot, the emotional aspect of it, especially when it's a hard shift, especially when it's a personal shift. I think all shifts and pivots render emotion, but when it's a really tough pivot that you have to make, where it's a financial hurdle or a huge emotional hurdle, I do think it's necessary to, like we said earlier, acknowledge it, but go through the course of the emotions. Because at the end of the day, you have a right to feel how you feel, no matter the situation of what happened. I think about when it's a financial hurdle, I think about all the hurdles that I go through or we go through as people when it comes to the financial aspect of them. And we need to pivot, not being afraid. I think sometimes, and I won't speak for you, you know, let us know in the comments or let us know, like, sometimes it is scary to do other things that you're not used to doing when it's a hard financial hurdle, or letting go of things that you can't do anymore or can't do in that moment or that season anymore, because I'm not going to say that you can never do it again. Right. And being faced with what's being presented in front of you and then taking it apart to create the plan that gets you out of the certain situation or that season. What does that even look like? Right. So I want to make sure that we touched a little bit on like the emotional aspect of financial hurdles, because they do happen in your business. They do happen in your life. It just happens, period. And as we are becoming the bosses we want to be, a lot of hurdles are going to come. I think we're all clear in this point that entrepreneurship is just a roll of these, ups and downs, up and down. And when we're high, preparing for when we go back down, because it's going to happen.
And vice versa. I mean, you would be, sorry to say, you'll be a little naive to just expect business or life in general to just be smooth all the time. The best thing you could do is just best prepare.
Yeah, best prepare from the lessons learned preview. Best prepare through prayer, through mentorship, through the support of good friends in your life or good people in your life, right? Prepare in those ways so that when those challenges, hurdles, pivots come, you know how to handle it. Or you're handling it with the confidence that you have, knowing that you have the fellowship that you need to make it happen. So I want to make sure that as you are going through the pivot or thinking through the time that you need to pivot, whether it's quick or not quick, that you are, you know, calling on the people that you have in your circle to help you pivot through.
That's important. Mine's right here.
Right here.
So, I mean, do you think we went over at least the good bullet points about how to pivot? I mean, like we said, every scenario is going to be different. It could be a greater scale, changing a whole business or shutting one down or whatever, or it could just be, you know, something within the business. Could be equally stressful. But these points that we've made, these steps that we've given, these different scenarios, I hope that has painted the picture for you on how to handle those situations, whether you have lots of time, a little bit of time, whatever. I think all in all is to take immediate action and learn. And strengthen that muscle to be able to do the big pivot.
Yeah, absolutely. So we know next steps for you right now is to do your journal prompts. We have 3 prompts below that we want you to answer that are helping you flush through you becoming the boss that you want to be. And until next time, ladies,
see you next time.